Finishing tools are only assembled by the manufacturer. These tools are not set precisely. That's something that you have to do when you open up the box and take the tool out and set it up the first time. In this video, I'll show you how to fine-tune and set a compound miter saw. This is a finicky shot, a difficult shot, bear with me. I'm gonna have to set up the camera at multiple positions so you have a good view and a good angle on the detail that you really need to see. And I'll try to work around the camera and not to knock it too many times. For a starter, I mounted the arm of the saw back where it was removed from, and these are the bolts that I worked on. Let me just show you. I put this one back on. This is a 24mm nut and this one is a 17mm nut, and and at about this angle you can see that all of these spring washers or lock washers, more like spring washers, allow me to lock the blade or lock the arm of the saw at any angle, providing resistance through the stiffness of those spring washers. The adjustment block has also been put back in place, and for the first adjustment it's wobbly as it should be. There is one more, actually two more screws or bolts that I haven't pointed out previously yet. There is one of them. I just prepared this key in here. It says bevel 0 degrees. Yeah, you can see bevel 0 degrees there. That's where we start, at vertical 0 degree bevel. And there is one more on this side of it, and this needs a 4mm Allen key. Just back it out for now and just leave it loose. So the adjustment mechanism here should be loose for the 90 degree or 0 degree, whichever way you look at it, vertical stop. So this camera should be someplace here. Just bear with me on this one. And you're gonna need a square for this one, just a simple square like so, a set square. And for the rest of the cuts you're gonna need, you can see I removed from a combo square, combination square, I removed the blade and I'm just using the stock. And I will show you what to look at in a sec. Just gonna put this one here as a counterweight. Thereabouts. Okay, let's zoom in, because the stock on the little square is not long enough and it kinda falls down. So throughout the adjustments you're gonna be looking at how the saw blade, red, and the blade of the square with numbers on meet. There shouldn't be any angle between the two. The blade of the square is perfectly perpendicular to the direction of the table here below, and when the saw blade is set up squarely for a vertical 90 degree or 0 degree cut, there should be no gappage between the blade of the square and the saw blade. At the moment you can see that there is a gap. See, let me just point it out with something smaller than my finger. Here at the heel of the or closer to the table here, you can see there is no light showing through between the saw blade's blade and the square's blade. And as we go higher up you can see a line of light appearing there. Just so you know which line of light I'm talking about, I made it disappear now by pushing the set square tight against the blade, so there shouldn't be any of that gappage there. Okay, So just zoom out a little bit so you can see my hand for a sec. I'm gonna be rotating this one clockwise, and I'm gonna zoom in so you can see it from close there. That as I rotate the hex key here again, you can see that the gap is closing between the saw blade and the square. Right about there is perfect, but just for demo purposes I'm gonna overturn it, and you can see a gap appearing there now at the base of the square. Let me just take it back a little bit and push the square tight against. So at this position there is a little bit of a V-gap, and some light is showing through at the top of the square, and that's about there. Perfect. But if I overdo it, you can see that the light starts to show through at the base of the square. So I'm taking it back just one last time, and I set it where it should be. That's about there. Let me see. No, that's overdone. I just rotated it a quarter turn. How about a quarter turn this way? No, that's not good there either. So I'm looking for the middle, and it's somewhere there. I just found the midpoint, and when I have it, just zoom out. When I have this position here nailed, take the tool out, and now I can. The adjustment block is still wobbly, but it was perfect at this position here. So I'm just gonna tighten it here with this 10mm wrench. Just give me a sec, and you can see I'm not in for ripping the threads out of the cast aluminum saw. Just make it snug, okay? I'm not using a torque wrench or anything. Just checking it at the saw blade again, tilting it back, because now I need to tighten this bolt here on this side. Just give me a few seconds here, because this is difficult to get to, and the adjustment block shouldn't be moving anymore, only for being adjusted for the vertical position. There, tilt it back to vertical, and check it again. There. Oh, and I obviously removed the saw guard for clarity, and so I can see what I'm doing, because it's a single man operation, so I really need to see it. Okay, we're done with this little square. Now we are gonna set left and right 45-degree bevel. To do that, it's done with two adjustment bolts. One of them is right here where we started. It says bevel stop right 45. So I'm gonna find the screw. Just give me a minute. Oops, that's a miss. And while you're waiting, I'll let you know that at the place of manufacture, the adjustment block was by mistake glued to the saw, and no adjustment was possible on it. So I totally had to take it apart and remove the thread lock. There, remove the thread lock that was accidentally spilled on it. Now, for the rest of the adjustment, I'm gonna need both of my hands, and come on around for a sec. Take a look at the front of the square here. It says 0 to 45-degree left, and I cannot rotate it any more, only if I take it out of vertical. Just a sec, and now I can rotate it 45-degree right, and there is one more max range. Okay, so it's got to be for 0 to 45-degree left. The saw as is cannot be rotated to any other directions, only to the left. Okay, so we're gonna set that one first. And come on back here to this side. And I'm gonna rotate it to 45 degrees. And thereabouts. You can see through here. That's good. Let's just zoom in a little bit. And wait for the camera to focus. Just a sec. Okay, thereabouts. Just need to come up a little bit. Just bear with me. This is the only way to get it done, so you can see what I'm looking at. That's about good. Okay. So I'm trying to get to there. It's sharp just about there. I'm trying to get this combination square stock to the saw blade, and I'm looking for any amount of light showing or appearing between the saw blade and the set square or combination square. And at this point we just seem to be dead on. But just for demo purposes, what happens if I rotate? Yeah, you can see what happens if I rotate this bolt in and out. Just so you see what I was doing to produce that movement. I was doing this. I put the wrench on the adjustment bolt that's down there, and that resulted in, just let me zoom in, and that resulted in a little bit of a blade movement, which was about this much. You can kind of see it now. If I pull my camera over here, let me just take a look at this one from here. Maybe it's a little better from here. Yeah, you can see the square a little better. And let's see how this looks when I move it there. Now, what I need to do at this point is check it from the front. So, come on around. Let's set it here. Check it from the front. Just bear with me here. Let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah, folks, it's just about this finicky, and there's no way around it. Match the angle with the stock of this combination square, and that looks pretty good to me, with no light showing this way or this way, you know what I mean. And let me just get there with the camera. Yeah, that looks pretty close to me there. And this is what I mean, that you have to verify your final settings with test cuts, because it looks good as is, but you really have to do test cuts at the end. Now at this point I'm gonna rotate this knob to the 45-degree right position, so the saw can tilt to the right. I'm gonna put this square to the opposite side and take a look at the initial situation. And when I zoom in, you can clearly see that it's way off. You can see that there is a huge gap about here. So this saw needs to be rotated somewhere up a little bit. Okay? And to do that, come on back to the other side. We're done with this. We're done with that wrench. We are gonna be doing it with the Allen key placed in here that says 45-degree right, because now we are tilting it to the right. So let me just find the little adjustment bolt with it. Just bear with me. I guess we could use more accessible screws on and bolts on this one. Maybe some redesign is in order on this model, but those are just my ideas while I'm looking for the bolts. And there. Okay. Come on over here and take a look at this thing from here. Just gonna lift up the camera so it works with this angle. And lock it here and thereabouts. Just zoom in. There. It's kind of close, and there we can see that there is a gap between the square and the saw. So if I rotate this bolt, yep, it's lifting up the saw, and by doing so, that gap is being closed and is approaching 0. That's pretty close there. Now there's one more thing: the thickness of the carbide teeth on the saw. Ideally it should be checked and measured this way, so we're not hitting the teeth on the saw. The stock of the square is only against the blade itself and not the teeth. Now if I lower it any further, you can't see much from this angle, so I'm gonna reposition yet again there. Now just let me just set it. Since we're here, it's almost perfect. A little more, maybe a quarter turn. That's pretty good there. Now we're gonna look at it from the front and then we're done. Just come on around one last time. That's about good here. And okay, I need to lower the camera. Just a sec. There. And yep, that's pretty good. The saw teeth are not in the way. Maybe move it here. Let's see if the camera refocuses there. That's about good on the square. The saw blade shouldn't be sharp. It should be out of focus. It should be sharp here, which it is. So you can see a nice and even line of light appearing, and a nice and even line of light disappearing, which is telling me that there's no V-gap. The saw is set pretty well and it's good to go for test cuts. So that's how to set up and fine-tune a compound miter saw.